Welcome back to KatanaTCG. We're going to be taking a look at an early deck preview, a very, very early deck preview of what Mewtwo VSTAR might look like after Pokemon Go and our August set come out. When it's time to flex on your opponents in Top Cut this season, or even just upgrade your TCG accessories, make sure you're checking out inkgaming.com. They have a wide variety of custom playmats, custom dice bags, face masks, as well as mouse pads too, and a grip of sleeves and dice and deck boxes, all your TCG accessory needs. And you can use the code DADSPOD10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order from inkgaming.com. Your game, your style. Here's kind of an overview of what the deck might look like, and yes, it is Psychic, and nothing but Psychic. So let's kind of dive into the cards and what they do and how we can apply them in the standard format. Mewtwo V and V-Star released in the Pokemon Go set, which released in July. The Mewtwo V is a 220 HP Psychic Pokemon for 1 Psychic and 1 Colorless. It does Super Psy Bolt for 50 damage, and for 2 Psychic and 1 Colorless, it does Transfer Break for 160 damage, and you move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched Pokemon. Weak to Dark, resistant to fighting, and 2 retreat cost. Mewtwo V-Star has 280 HP. It is also a Psychic Pokemon, surprising nobody. For 1 Psychic Energy and 1 Colorless, it does Psy Purge, which does 90 times damage. You discard 3 Psychic Energy from your Pokemon, not this Pokemon, but any of your Pokemon. And this attack does 90 damage for each card you discarded this way, maxing out at 270 damage, which is just about the sweet spot for all of the V-Stars in this format. And its V-Star power for 1 Psychic and 1 Colorless Star Raid, this attack does 120 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon V. That is substantial, and this damage isn't affected by weakness or resistance. Weak to Dark, resistance to fighting, and a 2 retreat cost. Now, Star Raid is a really good one-time attack that you can utilize to really soften up anything on your opponent's bench in the form of a V Pokemon, but the Psy Purge is kind of where we live. We want to try to get the back-to-back 270s on all of your opponent's Pokemon, V or not, and it's a pretty reasonable attack cost for 1 Psychic and 1 Colorless. Now, the whole engine to this Mewtwo deck and how to consistently get a 270 damage output every turn spines on this new Clefairy that came out in Dark Fantasma. It's not a part of our English set quite yet, but it will be included in our August set. So after Pokemon Go, Mewtwo might not see as much strength, but after that August set comes out, it does definitely get a buff with this card. It's a 60 HP Psychic Pokemon, weak to Steel, 2 retreat cost, with a sweet ability called Moonlight Party. And once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may go into your deck and attach 1 Psychic Energy to each of your benched Clefairy, and you can use this ability as many times as you're able to get a different Clefairy into the active, which is really cool because we play a bunch of switch cards and we play Bird Keeper to kind of help us rotating in and out so that we can finish by having Mewtwo into the active spot and consistently hit 270. It also has a pretty worthwhile attack in the form of Wonderstorm. It does 20 damage for each Psychic Energy attached to all of your Pokemon, which is pretty powerful. In terms of draw power and support, we have the Bidoof and Bibarel engine, allowing us to draw until we have 5 cards in our hand, which we know is very, very good. And in a world where we potentially rotate out of Shady Dealings, this is going to be the best support piece draw engine that we will have. We also have a secondary attacker in the form of Galarian Articuno, 120 HP Psychic Pokemon with the ability Cruel Charge. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench, you may attach up to 2 Psychic Energy cards from your hand to this Pokemon, and it has an attack called Psylaser. For 2 Psychic and 1 Colorless, you discard all Psychic Energy from this Pokemon, and this attack does 120 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Weak to Dark, resistant to fighting, 2 retreat cost. In a world where we're not actually able to get the Clefairy into the active, or we have a hand too big to draw with Bibarel, we're able to actually thin our hand a little bit by taking 2 of those Psychic Energy, putting them onto the Articuno as it goes to the bench, then being able to potentially draw more cards, or just utilize its attack to do 120 damage to one of our opponent's Pokemon. And because we're accelerating this energy into play, we can also discard that energy with Mewtwo's attack as well. And to round off our Pokemon, we do play a Lumineon V, 170 HP water Pokemon with the ability Luminous Sign. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench during your turn, you may go search out a supporter from your deck, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. It does have an attack for 1 water and 2 colorless Aqua Return, 120 damage. You shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it back into your deck. It is weak to lightning, resistant to nothing, and a retreat cost of 1. We're specifically using this to grab a supporter for the turn to either draw cards or grab things like Birdkeeper to cycle in the Clefairy into the active to use its Moonlight Party to get those psychic energies into play and attack with Mewtwo shortly after. Now, to establish our board state very early, we are streamlining Battle VIP Pass, being able to run a 4 count of these to get your Clefairies out as soon as possible, as well as potentially Mewtwo or maybe a Bidoof if you get lucky and you have the ability to use 2 Battle VIP Pass. But I think establishing board state early and being able to get that engine rocking and just kind of cycling all that psychic energy into play is going to be huge for this deck. So VIP Pass makes a whole lot of sense to me. We play 3 Quick Ball because we're able to kind of shorten our basic Pokemon search because we are playing 4 Fog Crystal. Being able to go grab a basic psychic Pokemon or a psychic energy is huge for this deck. We are playing a 2 count of Ultra Ball, being able to thin our hand down a little bit, grab a Pokemon of any flavor, and draw more cards with Bibarel is just what makes Ultra Ball so powerful in this particular format. We are playing 2 switch cards to be able to cycle those Clefairies into the active and use Moonlight Party as effectively as possible. We're also playing 2 Balloon to retreat as necessary, so that when we recoil from attacks or we're able to kind of pivot around and get the Clefairies into the active to cycle that energy back in. Sounds repetitive, but that is the entire core of this deck. We are also playing an energy recycler because we do need to discard this energy, being able to put it back into the deck and then rifle all that energy back out with the Clefairies is key. The rescue carrier is also huge too, being able to potentially put 2 of those Clefairies from your discard pile back into your hand, then back onto your bench, is the difference between being able to accelerate 2 energy into play and being able to potentially accelerate 3 or more. We're also playing 1 energy switch. We may run into instances where we are receiving a knockout on Mewtwo, and because we don't have a really good energy accelerator for Mewtwo, being able to accelerate it onto Clefairy and then energy switching it onto Mewtwo, then attaching for turn, gets us right back into the money in terms of attacking again the following turn. 270 is just shy of where we need to be in terms of knocking out almost every V-Star in the format, so bumping that damage up, especially against very strong V Pokemon in this format by 30 with the Choice Belt is very, very necessary. We're running 3 Professor's Research to be able to look at more cards, thin out all the resources, especially Battle VIP Pass, which become very pesky in the late game scenarios. We're running 2 Marnie to be able to manipulate our opponent's hand, whilst also drawing more cards for ourselves. We're playing 1 Birdkeeper to be able to draw 3 cards while also rotating either your attacking Mewtwo into the active or to cycle in another Clefairy to accelerate more of that psychic energy into play. 2 Boss's Orders to be able to gust the Pokemon into the active that we need to either attack or stall for the turn, but in most cases it's just to attack. We're playing a 1 Raihan, being able to accelerate a basic energy out of the discard pile, on top of being able to go into our deck and grab possibly the V-Star or the Choice Belt to get the knockout on the turn is also very, very good. 2 Path to the Peak, because other than the Luminous sign on the Lumineon, we are able to fully function without abilities on our Rulebox Pokemon. And we're rounding up the list with 11 Psychic Energy. I think that that's plenty, and I include the Energy Recycler because I think there are going to be several instances where you're discarding up to 6 energies on back-to-back turns, and being able to put 5 of them back into the deck, only to re-accelerate them back in with Clefairy is very, very powerful. This deck stands to be very, very fun because it forces very uncomfortable prize trades. You're able to attack 120 damage snipe with the Galarian Articuno's Psylaser, on top of being able to do 120 snipe with the Star Raid attack. So you can basically body things with 240 HP or less on the bench. Not to mention that there are a lot of psychic weak things in the format right now in terms of Urshifu, as well as Decidueye, and other things like Metacham that are becoming more problematic in this format. And I think going forward that it's going to be very important to have psychic attackers not named Mew VMAX that can actually hold their own in a format like this. Not to mention, it doesn't give up 3 prizes like Mr. Mew VMAX, and that actually feels pretty good. Because everything in this deck is 2 prizes or less, you're actually able to make games last quite a while, and I think that's really what the V-Star format has brought to us, is a longer game with a higher skill ceiling, and you can have fun decks like this that utilize single prizes like Clefairy to either be a secondary attacker or just be able to cycle around and kind of accelerate energy and be that sneaky piece where your opponent has to boss this in order for you to not consistently get off 270 attacks with the Mewtwo VSTAR. I hope you enjoyed my extremely early deck preview of Mewtwo VSTAR and what it might look like after Pogo and our August set release in the future. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you go ahead and leave me a like, comment which deck you'd like to see next week below, and subscribe to my channel to get notifications on when I post videos like my early deck previews. And be sure to check out the PokeDads podcast every Friday, where me, Rick, Aaron, and Scott talk about everything that is Pokemon. See you around. Deuces.